only wins if it changes you, and you, my friend, are worth more than that. Life has a way of circling back the energy people put out into the world, whether it's kindness, cruelty, love, or betrayal, always seems to find its way home like a boomerang. Our actions, our words, even our intentions come full circle often when we least expect it. Maybe you've seen it happen. Someone who thrived off of making others feel small eventually found themselves in a position where no one respected them. Someone who spread lies and gossip about others eventually became the subject of whisper ears, choosing growth over revenge themselves. The person who dismissed you, underestimated you, or mistreated you is now facing their own season of struggle. You wonder, is this karma? Is this justice? Is this just the way the universe works? Here's what I believe. You cannot pour negativity into the world and expect to receive peace in return. You cannot constantly tear others down and expect to sink tall forever, and you cannot treat people as if they are disposable and expect loyalty when you need it most. Life simply doesn't work that way. The boomerang effect is not always immediate. Sometimes it takes years. People to feel the weight of what they once did to others. It doesn't always look like punishment in the way we imagine. Sometimes it's as simple as isolation. The people once had power over others eventually find themselves alone, wondering why no one is there for them the way they expected. Other times it looks like a series of missed opportunities, doors closing where they once easily opened, and while it's tempting to sit back and watch their downfall like an audience at a play, here's something important to remember. Your growth is not dependent on their suffering. Yes, the person who wronged you might be struggling now, but that struggle is between them. Life, not you. You don't have to stand at the sidelines keeping score, because the moment you do, you're still tethered to them. You're still carrying the weight of their actions, and that is not your burden to bear. What happens to them is not your responsibility, nor is it your victory. Your victory is in the fact that you didn't become them. You didn't let their cruelty make you cruel. You didn't let their unkindness turn you bitter. You walked through the fire, and instead of coming out burned, you came out stronger. The real boomerang effect. It's not just about what happens to those who mistreat others. It's about what happens when you choose to break the cycle, when you choose growth over revenge, when you choose to rise instead of sink to their level. Because at the end of the day, life has a way of handling people, and your job is to heal, move forward, and build a life so full and rich that you don't even notice when the boomerang returns to those who once threw it. When someone wrongs us, the instinctive response is often to want revenge. We want them to feel what we felt. We want them to understand firsthand the hurt they caused. We want justice, and sometimes justice feels like making them pay. But here's the truth. Revenge is a trap. It keeps you tied to the very person who hurt you. It demands your time, your energy, your emotion. It tricks you, the quiet justice of time, into believing that if you can just make them suffer the way they made you suffer, you'll finally find peace. Peace doesn't live in revenge, it lives in growth. The illusion of revenge. Revenge is seductive. It whispers in your ear, convincing you that getting back at someone will bring relief, and for a fleeting moment it might. But what happens after? What happens when the moment is over and you still feel empty? Because revenge doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't erase the betrayal, the disrespect, or the pain. All it does is keep you in a cycle of negativity, reliving the hurt over and over. The irony of revenge is that it often turns you into the very thing you despised in them: the liar, the manipulator, the one who acts out of anger instead of integrity. And when you start playing their game, you risk becoming like them. Isn't that the opposite of what you want? The power of growth. Growth, on the other hand, is hard. It requires restraint. It demands that you put your energy into yourself rather than to punishing someone else. It asks you to take the high road, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Choosing growth means recognizing that the best revenge isn't hurting them, it's healing yourself. It's using what happened as fuel to build a better, stronger, wiser version of you. It's moving so far forward that their actions no longer have power over you, because that's the thing about growth. It releases you, it frees you from the past, from their mistakes, from the weight of what they did. Growth looks like growth doesn't mean pretending like nothing happened. It doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means looking at the pain, acknowledging it, choosing not to let it define you. It means refusing to let bitterness take root in your heart. It means setting boundaries, learning from the experience, and deciding that your future is more important than your anger. Growth looks like focusing on your future instead of their downfall, pouring your energy into self-improvement rather than revenge, breaking the cycle. Instead of continuing it, proving them wrong, not with words, but with success and inner peace, the ultimate victory. You know what really unsettles the people who mistreat others? Seeing the person they hurt rise, seeing them walk away unshaken and unstoppable, unwilling to engage in pettiness. When you choose growth over revenge, you don't just win, you elevate yourself to a place where their actions no longer matter. That is the ultimate victory, because in the end, the goal isn't to make them suffer. The goal is to ensure that you don't suffer because of them anymore. And that my friend is a power no one can take away from you. Time has a way of revealing truth, setting things right, and empathy. Even when they don't deserve it, delivering justice in ways we never expected. It doesn't always move at the speed we want it to, but it never fails to do its work. The same people who mistreated you, underestimated you, or took advantage of your kindness will at some point face the consequences of their actions, not because you orchestrated it, because life has a way of balancing the scales. It's tempting to want immediate justice. When someone hurts us, we want to see them face their reckoning now. We want proof that the universe is paying attention, that their wrongs won't go unpunished. But here's what I've learned: justice doesn't always look like a dramatic downfall. More often it's subtle. It unfolds over time in ways that might not be obvious at first, but are undeniable when you look back. Time always exposes people. People can wear masks. For only long they can manipulate, lie, and pretend. But time has a way of peeling back the layers and showing people for who they really are. Someone who built their life on deception will eventually find themselves surrounded by distress. Someone who made a habit of stepping on others to get fed will eventually find themselves without real support. Maybe you've already started to see it. The person who once dismissed you now needs your help. The friend who betrayed you now longs for the loyalty they took for granted. The boss who mistreated employees now struggles to keep a team together. Life has a way of bringing things full circle, often in ways no one could predict. The justice you don't have to deliver. The beauty of time's justice is that it requires nothing from you. It brings clarity. Have you ever looked back on a painful situation and thought, I can't believe I let that affect me so much? That's time at work. It allows you to see things with a new perspective, to recognize that what once felt like a devastating loss was actually a necessary lesson. While time is working on them, it's also working on you. It's giving you space to grow, to heal, to create a life so full, beautiful, that their actions no longer matter. Because real justice isn't just about them facing consequences. It's about you becoming so strong and at peace that their actions no longer have power over you. Patience is power. It takes patience to trust in the quiet justice of time. It takes strength to let go of the need for immediate payback. When you do, you free yourself from the burden of anger, resentment. You allow life to unfold as it should, knowing that in the end everything falls into place exactly as it's meant to. So if you're wondering whether justice will come, trust that it may be not today, maybe not in the way you expected. Life has a way of making sure that people reap what they sow, and your job is, your freedom lies in letting go to live so well that by the time justice arrives, you're too busy thriving to even notice. It's one of the hardest things to do, to extend empathy to someone who has hurt you, to look a person who caused you pain. See past their actions, past their words, past the damage they left behind. Everything, and you might scream, why should I care? Why should I try to understand someone who didn't think twice about hurting me? You'd be right to feel that way. No one is asking you to excuse what they did. No one is saying that what happened was fair or justified. But here's the thing about empathy: it's not about them, it's about you. What empathy is and what it isn't. Empathy doesn't mean you condone what they did. It doesn't mean you let them back into your life. It doesn't mean you minimize your pain. Recognize your pain. Empathy recognize that hurt people. It means you acknowledge that their actions were likely a reflection of their own struggles, wounds, shortcomings, not of your worth. It's easy to show empathy toward those who are kind, those who love us, those who deserve it. But real empathy, the kind that challenges you, the kind that strengthens you, comes when you extend it to those who have given you no reason, to the root of their actions. Let's be honest, some people are just cruel, selfish, or careless, but more often than that, when someone mistreats you, it's because they're battling something within themselves. Maybe they grew up in an environment where love was scarce, where manipulation, control were the only ways they knew how to interact with others. Maybe they were never taught how to be emotionally available, how to communicate without causing harm. Maybe their wounds run so deep that they don't even realize how much they project onto others. Does that make what they did okay? Absolutely not. Does that mean you should let them keep hurting you? No. But does it mean that you can step back and say, I see that this is about them, not me? Yes. And that is where your power lies. The freedom in letting go. Holding on to resentment is heavy. It keeps you tied to the past. It keeps you emotionally connected to the very person you wish to detach from. The truth is, they probably aren't carrying the same weight while you're replaying what they did, feeling the anger rise inside you. They might be living their life completely unaware of the storm they left behind in you. Empathy doesn't mean you let them off the hook. It means you let yourself off the hook. It means you decide that you're not going to carry the bitterness any longer, that you're not going to let their actions dictate your emotional state. Because here's the reality: the moment you can look at them and say, I don't excuse what you did, but I also don't need to hold on to this pain anymore, you win. Empathy doesn't mean reconciliation, breaking free from resentment. Sometimes people hear the word empathy and assume it means they have to welcome toxic people back into their lives. That is not the case. You can have empathy for someone and still keep your distance. You can understand why they are the way they are without inviting them to hurt you again. Empathy is a mindset, not a contract. It's an internal shift, a way of freeing yourself from the emotional chains of resentment. It's looking at them and saying, I hope you find healing, but I also hope you do it far away from me. The strength in choosing empathy. It's easy to be angry. It's easy to let bitterness take root. True strength lies in the ability to rise above, to choose to see the bigger picture, to recognize that someone else's brokenness does not have to become your burden. So when you ask yourself, why should I have empathy for them? The answer is simple: because you deserve peace, not them you letting go. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But if you've ever been deeply hurt, betrayed, or mistreated, you know it's anything but easy. When someone wrongs us, our instinct is often to hold on to the pain. We replay what happened over and over, analyzing every detail, trying to understand why they did it. We think about what we could have said differently, how we could have defended ourselves better, how we could have avoided the situation altogether. It's almost as if by holding on to the pain, we believe we're keeping control over what happened. But in reality, the longer we hold on to resentment, the more we keep ourselves trapped, not them us. The illusion of holding on. There's a strange comfort in holding on to anger and resentment. It feels like protection, like if we stay mad, we won't be hurt again. If we never forgive, we won't be vulnerable. If we keep the pain close, we'll never forget the lesson. But that's a lie. Holding on to pain doesn't protect us. It poisons us. It keeps us tethered to the very person we wish to forget. It makes us carry their mistakes long after they've stopped thinking about us. While they move on with their life, we're still carrying the weight of what they did, and that's not fair to you. The burden of carrying the past. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Every rock represents a hurt, a betrayal, a disappointment. At first it might feel manageable, but as time passes it becomes exhausting. You start to feel it in your body, your mind, your spirit, and yet for some reason you refuse to put it down. You tell yourself that you need to carry it, that it's part of your identity now, that without it you wouldn't be the same. But here's the truth: you are not. You're finding strength in moving forward. Pain, you are not what they did to you. You are not the person they tried to break. You are so much more. And the moment you decide to set that heavy backpack down, to let go, you take your power back, you reclaim your peace, you give yourself permission to live fully again. Letting go doesn't mean they win. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with letting go is the belief that if they do it somehow means the other person wins, that if we stop being angry it means what they did was okay, that if we move on it means they got away with it. But that's not true. Letting go isn't about them, it's about you. It's about refusing to let their actions dictate your happiness any longer. It's about choosing to no longer let their mistakes define your future. It's about realizing that freedom doesn't come from making sure they suffer. It comes from making sure you don't suffer because of them anymore. But letting go looks like letting go doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you pretend it didn't happen. It doesn't even mean you have to forgive them, though forgiveness, when you're ready, is one of the greatest acts of self-liberation. Letting go means releasing the need for closure you may never get, accepting that some people will never change or apologize, choosing to focus on your future rather than their past mistakes, refusing to let bitterness take up space in your heart, recognizing that healing is a gift you give to yourself, not to them. The freedom that awaits you when you finally let go. Something shifts inside you. The anger that once felt so necessary starts to fade. The resentment that weighed you down for so long begins to lift. You start to feel lighter, freer, more at peace. And that's when you realize you were never meant to carry this forever. So ask yourself, what are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What pain, what resentment, what anger have you carried for too long? Most importantly, are you ready to put it down? Because your freedom, your joy, your peace, they've been waiting for you all along. Life has a way of teaching us lessons through pain, betray, and disappointment. Conclusion: true victory is in your growth. We've all felt the sting of mistreatment, the weight of resentment, and the pull of revenge. But at the end of the day, holding on to anger does nothing but keep us trapped in the past. The justice we crave, the closure we seek, the apology we deserve, it may never come. That's okay, because our healing is not dependent on them. It's dependent on us. The real victory is not in seeing them suffer. It's in rising above it. All it's in choosing growth over retaliation, empathy over bitterness, and peace over chaos. It's in recognizing that their actions do not define us. Our response does. The weight of unkindness, the pain of betrayal, the burden of resentment, they are heavy, but we are not meant to carry them forever. The moment we let go, we step into the most powerful version of ourselves. We reclaim our joy, our strength, our freedom. So here's the truth: they may have treated you poorly, but they do not get to control your future. That power belongs to you. And when you finally decide to set down the pain, walk forward, and never look back, that's when you truly win. The weight of unkindness, we've all felt it. That sting, that moment when someone wronged us, dismissed us, made us feel small. Maybe they lied, maybe they betrayed your trust, maybe they saw your kindness as weakness and used it against you. And now they're struggling. There's a part of you that might want to celebrate their suffering, to see it as just as served. But let's pause for a second. Let's ask the harder question, does their pain really heal yours? Pain has a way of cycling back. The person who once mistreated you may now be feeling the weight of their own actions. But here's the truth, you don't have to stand there arms crossed waiting for life to pay them back, because the real victory, it's not in watching them suffer, it's in realizing that their behavior didn't break you. You are still here, you are still standing. Here's something I want you to hold on to. Hurt people. That doesn't excuse them, that doesn't erase what they did. But it does explain a lot. Most people who lash out, who belittle, who manipulate, they're carrying wounds of their own. While it's tempting to feel satisfied when life turns the tables, the truth is revenge, even when served by karma, doesn't nourish the soul. What does moving on your healing isn't tied to their suffering, it's tied to your decision to release the weight of their action. It's in understanding that their poor treatment of you was never about you, it was always about them. So let life do what life does. If they are suffering now, let that be their journey, but yours is about walking forward free, untangled and whole. Because the best revenge, it's not watching them fall, it's rising beyond the version of you they try to break, and kindness is heavy. It lingers in the spaces we don't talk about, in the quiet moments when we replay conversations wondering if we should have said more or if we should have stayed silent. It sticks to our skin like the boomerang effect. How actions come full circle, a cold wind reminding us of the times we were overlooked, dismissed, or treated as though we didn't matter. Think about the moments when someone spoke to you in a way that made you question your worth. Maybe it was a boss who never saw your potential, a friend who turned their back on you, a family member who made you feel small in your own home. Maybe it was someone who you trusted, someone who should have been in your corner, instead became the very person who wounded you. That pain doesn't just disappear, it settles in, sometimes turning into self-doubt, sometimes into anger, and sometimes into the quiet belief that maybe, just maybe, you deserved it. But here's the truth, unkindness says far more about the person delivering it than the one receiving it. People who mistreat others are often carrying burdens of their own wounds. They haven't healed from insecurities they don't know how to face, and instead of confronting their own struggles, they offload their pain onto others. It's not fair, and it's not right. But it happens. The weight of kindness can shape us. If we let it, it can make us bitter. It can make us question whether kindness is even worth it. But here's the thing, what they did to you is not a reflection of who you are. Their cruelty does not define you. Their failure to see your worth does not mean you are not worthy. The heaviest part of unkindness isn't even the words, the actions. It's the way it tempts us to carry it with us long after the moment has passed. It whispers in our ears that we need to hold on to the hurt, that we need to keep replaying the scene, that we need to let it harden us. But that's a trick. The moment we begin to believe that protecting ourselves means becoming like the people who hurt us, we lose. So yes, the weight of unkindness is real, but here's the good news. You don't have to carry it forever. You don't have to let it shape you into someone. You're not let it make you wiser, not colder. Let it make you stronger, not harder. Let it remind you of the kind of person you never want to be. Because at the end of the day, unkindness